We are all following a rule book that we have intuited and is therefore unique to us. And I think that's one of the most insidious parts. The rule book told me that day said something about my mothering. It was an indictment of me as a mother, but it lied, right? That was just a lie. And I believed it. And I think high achievers are especially susceptible to being governed by this rule book. Why? Because we have been rewarded for following the rules, right? We're really good at following rules. It's probably how we achieved all that early success in the first place. This is episode 451 of the Brilliant Balance podcast, the Good Mother Rulebook that nobody published, but everyone follows. So welcome back to the Brilliant Balance world, since this is the place where we talk about what it actually takes to live a full, balanced, thriving life, not an idealized version, but a real one. I want to warn you that today's episode could land like a bit of a wake-up call, because what I'm going to talk about today is this rule book that it's been my experience every mother that I know is following, even though we've never actually been handed it, right? Nobody published it. Nobody made you agree to it, but you have it. And I call this the Good Mother Rulebook. And I think it's probably running through your head right now. It probably has been for years, even before you became a mother, because let me tell you, I knew the very most about being a mother before I ever became one. I think my knowledge has decreased every single year since then. But this book gets handed to us, or maybe I should say internalized by us very early on. So to set the scene for this episode, I want to go back to a day when my son, Tucker, was 4. And he was enrolled in a little preschool that my friend Anna, who was my mother mentor, had told me about when my oldest daughter was starting preschool. Adorable little, church-based preschool. And Tucker was in the 4-year-old class, which means my oldest was already in school and I had a 1-year-old at home. And at that point in my life, I want you to know, I was a very organized mother, right? I had systems. I tracked things. I had a calendar that I checked often. I was not, generally speaking, somebody who didn't have my stuff together, right? So picture day, no problem. I had picked out the shirt he was going to wear weeks in advance. Okay, truth be told, I probably bought a new shirt for him to wear for picture day. I had probably scheduled a haircut around this photo op, and I was set. I knew exactly what was going to happen on picture day. It was like a moment in this little guy's life. But then life was lifing. And, again, I have this older child. I have this little tiny one at home. And when picture day arrived, I sent Tucker off to school as usual, except I had completely forgotten about it. So I get to work and I guess he's wearing whatever shirt I pulled out of the drawer that morning, which was not the one I had planned. He also did not have an order form with him, like the envelope that they give you. He didn't have any money with him to pay for picture day. This is all, by the way, this is before this is like a digital process. So I think this has changed a lot in the years since this story happened. But I had no idea. I mean, I just was oblivious to the fact that it was picture day. So I go on about my day and I'm in a meeting and my phone rings. And it's the school office from the preschool. And of course, if you've ever gotten this call, your heart drops because something has happened. And so appropriately, they reassure me immediately, Tucker's fine. They just need to know, did I want to have his picture taken? And I was like, well, yeah. And they said, well, today's picture day. And at this point, my heart rate is picking up and my heart is dropped into my stomach. And she's like, because we don't have the form. And I'm silently processing everything that this sweet woman is saying on the phone. And I'm problem solving. My brain is racing. I'm like, can I get there in time to, first of all, get the right shirt, get the form, get the money? Can I leave? And I couldn't, because where my office was downtown and he was all the way back in the suburbs. There was no way that I could solve this problem in real time, which was adding to my distress. And the feeling that came with it, I don't remember exactly what I said as I was trying to negotiate my way out of this, but I remember the feeling. And it wasn't really embarrassment, although that was there. It was shame. And I'm so grateful always to Brene Brown for teaching us all the distinction, right? Because embarrassment is, I did something dumb, right? You can kind of laugh at yourself, but shame is like, I am dumb. I am the mistake. There's an identity here. And so when this call came and I was at work and I couldn't fix it, um, I got myself out of the conversation and I took myself to the bathroom and I cried because I was so upset that I had failed in this moment, in this like important parenting moment. And then I went back to my desk and I like rebuilt all the tracking systems and reminder systems that I had so it would never happen again. You know, it was this like doubling down on effort to really try to, I don't know, punish myself for the sins I'd committed. And I will say, like, as I record this episode, Tucker is 18, about to turn 19. He does not remember this experience at all. Didn't affect him like in the least. He didn't even clock it at the time, right? He doesn't remember one detail of it. And if I'm honest with myself, like, I don't even know where the picture is. I don't even know today where his 4-year-old picture is living, because we were taking so many pictures at that time that I'm sure I had other better ones that ended up on display. So the whole thing sort of fades into like the background. But at the moment, I was in a spiral because in my Good Mother Rulebook, right? Good mothers remember picture day. Good mothers send the envelope and they have the money there and they have the right shirt picked out and they have the haircut. Like good mothers do not get calls from the school office. And I had broken the rules and I felt every bit of it like to my bones. So that's what I want to root today's episode in, is that whatever your version of school picture day is, you know, missing school picture day, the source of those feelings that comes with the miss really is the Good Mother Rulebook. It's not a published book. I mean, that would actually be too easy, right? Then we could just read the book and we would know what to do. And we'd have like the handbook you sign off on of your first day at work. But nobody's giving you that handbook when you become a mother. In fact, again, because this thing isn't even published, it kind of lives in the ether, it's elusive. And I think that Good Mother Rulebook is based in the collection of standards and expectations and beliefs that you hold, most of them without even realizing that you hold them, about what it means to be a good mother. Right. Some of the rules you probably know are there, like you could probably recite them, and others you might not even realize are in your rule book until you break one. And what you know is you know what it feels like, because that shame response fires like an alarm. And then you're standing in your kitchen crying over a school photo that was taken in the wrong shirt, right? Every mother I have ever worked with is running on some version of this rule book. And the rules really are different for everyone. And that is a really important piece of this, is that there is not a set rule book that we are all following. We are all following a rule book that we have intuited and is therefore unique to us. And I think that's one of the most insidious parts. The experience of having it is actually pretty universal, but the contents of it are really individualized. And I think high achievers are especially susceptible to being governed by this rule book. Why? Because we have been rewarded for following the rules, right? We're really good at following rules. It's probably how we achieved all that early success in the first place. And so the idea that like, oh, there's a rule book, and if I just figure this out and follow it, that's what's going to keep me safe. But it doesn't. Okay, we start applying rules that we never agreed to. We start following rules that we barely can articulate. And that gets us into a lot of little quagmires that I want to try to get us out of today. So if it's not published anywhere and it's not in print, which it's not, where does the rule book come from? And I want to talk about that. I think we just absorb it. Right? Over the years, without really realizing it's happening, we're like collecting data about what good mothering looks like. And every example that we witness becomes a data point and it affects the book in some way, right? Our brain like synthesizes it all into a working model of what we should be doing. So think about like the first example you probably have is your own mother, right? And again, whether you are determined to be just like her or determined to be nothing like her, you're still looking at her as a model of motherhood. And you looked at, what did she prize? What was like super important to her? What did she let slide? How did she move through the work of raising you? Right? The tone, like, was she like a warm, snuggly mom, or was she kind of formal and reserved? Was she really present and always like super focused on you? Or was she kind of distracted during the years that you remember? Was she focused at home? Was she career focused? Was she splitting between the two? Right? Did she cook dinner every night? Or were you a takeout family? Or my friend Tracy, who had a microwave family, which I always thought was so fun. My mom was a cook every night mom. And my friend Tracy's mom was like proudly, nope, if I can't heat it up in the microwave, we're not eating it. It was so mind-opening to me at the time. Right? So those choices that your own mother made became a baseline. And then you make a decision, consciously or not. Sometimes I think it's a conscious decision. Sometimes I think it's just happens of, are you going to match her or are you going to react against her? And either way, there's a big impact here on your personal rule book. And then you start watching other mothers, right? I mentioned my friend's mom. You might look at your friends' moms growing up and notice what was different, what was the same about the way you were mothered. Then you start seeing moms in the wild, right? At preschool pickup, at soccer, at school events. And you're noticing like who's bringing homemade fancy treats to the bake sale and who's bringing the store-bought plastic package of cookies, and you're clocking that. And you're looking at who is always showing up early and pulled together and who's kind of breathlessly running in the door at the last second. And you're looking at the birthday parties and the Valentine's boxes and the Halloween costumes and kind of assimilating data about what does a good mother do for you? How do you determine that? And even I think when we're trying not to, even when, I coach a lot of women to kind of find an internal locus of control, even when we're trying not to pay attention to what everyone else is doing, we still are. We're still noticing whether we're following or not. And then somewhere in the last decade or two, you started watching mothers on the internet, right? Which if you're looking for an efficient delivery system for impossible standards, the internet is hard to beat. Like you're right. All of that watching gets compressed into a belief system, that set of truly unwritten rules that you're holding yourself to. And it's happening quietly, and there's not often a lot of awareness about it, but I assure you it is there. So I want to give you a little sampler platter of what might be in your rule book. Right? Just a couple of like good mother rules that you might be following. Now, some of these, when I say them, are going to land for you. You're going to like wince a little. Some of them you're going to go, that's not me. I don't even believe that, which is just proving my point that the Good Mother Rulebook is unique to you. Okay. So let me give you a couple, see how they land. Feel a little flicker of recognition at any of these. We'll start with a good mother puts a home cooked dinner on the table every night. Right? Anybody have that in their rule book? A good mother always knows her kids' shoe sizes. Y'all, I used to keep a note in my phone with their current shoe sizes and the date, because those shoe sizes change so frequently for a while there. I never knew what I was doing. And then I'd like see a great pair of shoes on sale, want to buy it. Didn't know their shoe size. Pro tip. Okay, I digress. A good mother keeps an uncluttered house, right? A good mother takes her kids to the pool in the summer. A good mother is the one who never misses a game, like a sporting event. Good mother lets her kids have sleepovers. Maybe a good mother lets her kids have spontaneous sleepovers, right? A good mother doesn't yell. I think that's in a lot of our rule books. A good mother packs healthy lunches. Maybe you think a good mother reads to her kids every night, or volunteers in the classroom, or has her kids in the right activities, but not too many activities. Good mothers order the yearbook on time without needing 472 emails from the school, right? A good mother is warm, but also can hold the line on discipline. Like there's so many rules. So I'm giving you like just a little sampler platter here of what might be in your rule book, but I bet that you can think of lots more. The rule book doesn't have like a last page, right? I'm probably still adding to mine, and my kids are much older. So what I want you to notice is that every single item that I just read to you is completely negotiable. It actually is not a rule at all. There are wonderful, genuinely excellent mothers who have never once made dinner from scratch, like my friend's mom, right? People who cannot tell you their kid's shoe size off the top of their head, whose houses look like life, like people are living there, right? There are great mothers who miss games and who forget picture day, right? And we're still raising children who are completely fine. So the rules feel oppressive. They feel universal. They feel so heavy, but they don't have to. And this is the part that I want you to really sit with. All of us think we are following the same rule book, right? Before I said today that we have our own, I think you probably unconsciously are operating under the belief that there's some kind of universal playbook, universal rule book. And I'm arguing there's not, that you have intuited your own custom rule book. Kind of like if I looked at your social media feed, what would be fed to you is different than me, right? If you opened up my social media feed, and if you opened up someone else's, my neighbors, and one of the women on my team, and somebody in my family, all of us have a different like collection of things coming at us, right? The rule books are kind of similar, that we pick them up on our walk through life, which is unique. And so if you think you're holding yourself to this standard of everything you've experienced, everyone else is not necessarily doing that. Yours reflects your culture, right? That you were raised in, your community that you live in, your faith tradition, your childhood experience. All of that is like assimilated into your rule book. So mine is not the same as yours. Neither of ours is the same as the next listener. Okay. So there's this private set of standards, which actually makes it harder because we are judging ourselves as though those standards are shared. And there's some kind of like scoreboard. There is no scoreboard, right? No one can see how you are judging yourself. And that's what makes this so insidious. So here's a couple things that I want you to consider doing to create a little bit of freedom around this rule book. 3 things that I'm going to share today. The first one is I want you to publish your rule book. Now, I don't mean like literally share it. You don't have to share it with anybody else, but I want you to write it down somehow to actually define what are the rules that you have assimilated. And I don't want you to critique it. I don't want you to judge yourself. I don't want you to change it at all. Just document the rules that you feel like you're following. So take 10 minutes, just 10 minutes. Do it at lunch today, right? Don't doom scroll at lunch. Do this instead. And just write down the first 10 minutes, like stream of consciousness of the top of mind rules in your personal Good Mother Rulebook, the ones that you know are there. Maybe go back through the list that I read earlier in the episode, right? That can spark your thinking. But I bet you can just do this from a stream of consciousness. Just start with the prompt like a good mother always ... a good mother never ... right? Because those prompts will probably help you just complete the sentence and write it down. Don't filter yourself. Don't try to be super like enlightened about this or poetic. This is not a creative writing exercise. This is just an inventory, right? Like a laundry list. The goal is get as much as you can onto the paper of the rules that are running through your head somewhat unconsciously. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is to figure out where those rules came from. So this might be a little bit harder, but I think arguably even more important. So for every item on the list, ask yourself, like, where did I pick this one up? What's my origin story of this rule? Who's the first person I saw do this? Or who is the collective of people that I saw do this, right? Did it come from your own mother, right? Did it come from somebody that you saw while you were growing up? Like, did it come from, maybe there was like something aspirational that you saw in an aunt or a neighbor and you're like, oh, that's what a great mother does. I'm going to do that. Maybe it is something that you've seen as an adult. Maybe it came from a book that you read I think I didn't even mention that one before, but all of the experts that were tuned into, whether it's on the internet or authors, I think they can create elements of the Good Mother Rulebook. Did somebody make an offhanded comment to you one time that like lodged in your brain and is still affecting the way that you behave. So that step 2, after you've written it all down, is where did it come from? And just jot it down, like next to it, maybe, this one came from mom, this one came from Aunt so-and-so, this one came from my neighbor. You don't have to do anything about this. We're simply in the awareness phase of like shining a light on what are the little rules or big rules that we've picked up that we're following. Where did they come from? And then the third step is where it gets good, because this is where we start to get you some freedom. Okay. And that is to start sorting out which one of these rules do I actually want to follow? Because when we are looking at it as an immovable standard and telling ourselves, I have to follow this if I want to be a good mother, I have to, take my kids to the pool 4 times a week in order to be a good mother. But you don't actually want to do that, right? And maybe there's somebody else who loves taking them to the pool, or they don't even like going to the pool very much. Then we're just making ourselves crazy for no reason. So looking at each one of those rules and saying, does that one work for me? Is that part of my personal standard that I want to follow? Or am I like, I don't even care. Why am I working so hard at this thing that I don't even care about? Homemade Halloween costumes. That's a good one. We're not at that time of year, but I was raised with handmade, like homemade Halloween costumes. And there was a creative element to it. My mom was a kindergarten teacher. It's very fun for her to lean into that kind of thing. We didn't have store-bought costumes. And so that came with me into adulthood. Like, what am I going to do about these Halloween costumes? And yeah, I laid that one down pretty early. I mean, first of all, you could buy really cute Halloween costumes. I went through a little Pottery Barn phase. I went through I don't know. I've done it all. The Halloween Express in the little bags. My kids have wanted all the things. They've borrowed costumes from people. We've ordered things on Amazon. They've assembled things from things we had around the house. There is no standard, right, for how to have a great Halloween costume. But I started off having to lay that down. And I think there's so many examples like that to say, like, pick it up. Okay, good moms make homemade Halloween costumes. Do I want to be that mom? Maybe not. And can I lay that one down if I don't? So I think the truth is there are only a handful of things about motherhood that are genuinely non-negotiable, right? Like loving your child, creating a place where they feel loved, being their safe harbor, creating a place where they feel safe, right? And maybe creating a container where they feel seen and understood, where they can grow into themselves. Those things are probably not negotiable. Those are the things that actually do matter. The research is pretty clear on what children need to thrive, and it circles around those things again and again and again. But putting your kid in the right polo shirt for 4-year-old picture day is not one of those things. Remembering picture day is not one of those things. The home cooked dinners, the bedtime stories, being courtside at every basketball game, that's all negotiable. Okay. Every single item I read through in this episode lands in the negotiable column. So you get to choose. So the exercise for this step is simple. You're going to look at each one of these rules and ask yourself, does this protect love, safety, and growth? Right? Or is it just a preference? Like, is it just something I picked up along the way, a standard that someone else set that I have been carrying around like this heavy weight? And then you're going to sort your list. Some of the rules, by the way, that are in the negotiable column, you're going to choose to keep just because you like doing those things. It is, in fact, part of how you mother. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to do that. It's an act of love. I want to do that thing. And some of them you are going to cross off your list, never to return again, because you looked at it clearly and decided, yeah, this one's mine. This one's not. Okay. This is a completely different approach than following a rule book that you absorbed without ever agreeing to it. Right? It's totally different. When you do it with agency, you do it by choice. There's joy behind that. Right? There's a sense of delight, not duty. There's a sense of like, I'm doing this because of love, because this is how I express love, not this is an obligation. And the energy of those two things is completely different. Okay. So Tucker's picture that I can't even find in this house and don't even know where it is, right? The rule book told me that day said something about my mothering. It was an indictment of me as a mother, but it lied, right? That was just a lie. And I believed it. So whatever rules are living in your operating system right now that are creating a sense of shame, measuring you against a standard that you never agreed to, those are the rules that are worth a second look. And it doesn't mean you don't care. It's because you care, right? That's why you're here listening to an episode like this one, because you care. But caring isn't the same thing as following a rule book that you didn't write, right? So you get to decide, what does good mothering look like for you, rule by rule, piece by piece, eyes wide open. And so do your peers. So if there is somebody in your life that like comes to mind right now for you as you're listening to this episode and you're like, I know who needs to hear this. I know who needs to hear this. I bet there's going to be women listening today who send this to their grown daughters. There's going to be people sending this to sisters, to colleagues, to friends who are like, hey, you need to hear this, because we're all so hard on ourselves. So give someone else the gift of like relief. If this resonated with you and you know somebody else who needs to hear it, just forward them the episode. It's such a gift to me, and hopefully it will be such a gift to them when you do. That is all for today, my friends. Till next time, let's be brilliant.